everybody. Welcome to Trans Radical Activist Network. This is our relaunch.
Yay!
And so happy. This has been the happiest day ever.
Yeah. So whoever's wondering, okay, so whoever's tuning in, that music will change when we this is a generic StreamYard music, that was the intro, but we will edit that out and insert our own. So please do not worry.
Yeah, it's totally okay. It's totally okay.
I'm
But
only saying this, Noah, because I just wanna, this. I think it's totally appropriate. It just came to my mind that, okay, folks, reality of this, and this meaning, whoever does this kind of thing, independent media thing, we are not making money on this. It's like my mind actually is in a very weird place because I was kind of working today, like right up to like 15 minutes before we logged on. So yeah, the point is we just do this out of love and out of commitment to this world. Yeah, we are not rich. Please do not make any mistakes, folks. Like we just kind of barely survive, but it's fine. We have faith in
yes.
what we do. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, because you know us, we got to go out with a bang. So most people on Twitter pretty much have heard the song. So, but it will be on here again. But
Yes.
we just figured since this is a relaunch, I think honestly too, it's kind of appropriate. We didn't have the music. That countdown kind of fit since this is just going to be a one-time thing in a sense. But yes, so we did change the name just because we felt that trans radical activist actually was more fitting as opposed to the last name that we had. Right. Because there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the trans community right now. There's nothing wrong with being radical. We all should be radical.
Right. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe you don't want me to say this, but okay, so the certain individual in Noah's circle
yes, it's
wanted us not to use radical. He wanted us to use, what is it, resources. Okay. I'm sorry, but
it's okay.
That's not cutting it.
No.
Resources? Sorry.
It's if you want to be a resource network, you might as well just have a website and not do a podcast. Like, come on.
Yeah, and so it has like such a non-profit vibe that I don't like. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Not cutting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that I laughed honestly when I heard that. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with the term radical. I mean, especially if you justify it. And I mean, given what's been going on in the trans community, I think it is actually perfectly justifiable.
Yeah, and also, okay, I want to point out that so people actually have sort of like a misunderstanding about the term radical because they associate radical with kind of like being kind of violent, being chaotic. Radical only means that like you are different at the root, kind of like fundamentally different. So yeah, so there's like nothing really wrong or negative about being radical. It's just kind of creating something from scratch. It's fundamentally different from what we are used to. Yeah, that's what it means. So
yeah. And just an update too, now there are 24 trans lives that have been lost. Now is not the time to be wasting on performative conversations. We need to have the uncomfortable ones. Now, I do understand the hesitancy about wanting to engage in uncomfortable ones because nobody likes to have them, right? We don't,
Yeah.
but they got to be had because when you focus on the performative aspect, nothing's going to get done.
Mm.
We all should have an understanding and a universal agreement that our rights are in jeopardy. There's people in power that are, I want to just say they're living in the Stone Age. Let's just be real. They're living in the Stone Age.
Mm.
And the idea of being an inclusive society triggers them.
Yeah. 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 And I'll be totally honest, because I was thinking about, this, meaning like what we are trying to do or what we are doing. Um, I don't think any of us pretends to have the answer because
Mm-mm.
we don't know. We don't know how to solve problems, that we are having right now. Um, on a very serious note, I feel somewhat lost every day, at some point of every day. Um, because what we are dealing with, what we are faced with right now is so big and so horrendous. It's very depressing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't pretend to have an answer as to like how to solve this issue right now, what issues that we face,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to press on. We
Yes.
can't be depressed about it. We can't stand still. We somehow have to press on so
Mm-hmm.
that we can get somewhere. So
And I mean, I know that hasn't really been reinforced in mainstream media. They honestly, like, mainstream media is a joke because, in a sense, like, that kind of reinforces this cat and mouse game, the blame game. They offer no, like, words to encourage, more or less empower. Because you know what's wrong with this country? Empathy is missing, compassion is missing. All we have is hate and division in all aspects. It is not
Mhm.
okay. We need to start using our voices. I know it's scary for a lot of people to use their voice because we've been basically, especially with the LGBTQIA plus as a whole, that we need
Mhm.
to shut up and just take it. No, you are human beings. Using your voice is a powerful weapon. You combine that with action, you can accomplish a lot. Don't waste time on pointing on little tiny flaws, like really petty flaws. Please do not be afraid to hold people to account when it's due. That has also been the problem. We are not holding accountability anywhere. This is what this network is about: accountability, being unapologetic, and getting our voices heard. Now, I want to go ahead and put this disclaimer out here. We are not going to claim that we are the voices of the trans community. That is not what we're about. People who say that, though, that is the problem. We are our own leaders. There's not a specific leader. And I mean, particularly with the transgender, non binary, gender non conforming population, it's misunderstood. It's broad
Yeah.
because being in this particular category, it's, what's the word I'm looking for? I actually forgot, but I will go ahead and actually, when it comes back, I'm sorry. I've just been so excited about this launch. And oh my God, it's just.
Yeah. No, no. I think you are absolutely right. I just want to say, and I think it actually goes for every group, or group, because at the end of the day, none of us are a category, and I'm
Thank
saying
you.
this because, like, okay, so, okay, case in point, especially when I came to this country 32 years ago, it really, really kind of baffled me when people ask me questions like, oh, so what do Japanese people think about this? Because I'm like, well, I don't represent the whole of Japanese population. Of course not, right? And I think it's a no-brainer. It's like, you if you think about it, like none of us, like I mean, like any audience, like who is listening to this, if I ask you, like, okay, what you Americans do think about this, probably your answer is like, well, I don't represent, the whole American population. So it's the same thing. It's like, if you ask 100 transgender people or 100 non-binary people, about their life experience, even though there are commonalities somewhere in there, you will probably get 100 different answers, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. And the problem is, I think, um, so like let's look at TV programs, right? Television. Um, there's not enough representations of us out there. You know, there may be like cookie cutter representation, cookie cutter story, cookie cutter image of, like, let's say how trans men should be, what trans women should be, but that's not really representing us. So that's why we wanted to create a platform where all sorts of different trans people or non-binary people or other members of LGBTQIA plus, can come and share their stories, because we are all different.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Thank you for reminding me. Now I know what I was going to say.
Yay!
This day overall prior to this has been a really crappy day for me, so I do apologize. But
No apologies
ba-
necessary.
yeah, basically we need to stop like generalizing us. We need to stop like referring to the term trans as a medical term because it's a unique thing. And the reason why I say that is because it has created this conversation with gender norms. It's created a lot of gatekeeping within our own communities. And it's not okay.
Mhm.
I want to remind people back in the 90s of the slogan, we're here, we're queer, we're not going anywhere. We need to bring that back. We need to recognize all of us are experiencing oppression. We need to remind people, and I'm talking about mainly the LGB, the LGB. They experienced a lot of oppression. They've experienced hate. They've experienced deaths just like us. And I'm not saying that they don't experience that now, but it has been more heightened when it comes to the trans, gender nonconforming, and non-binary communities.
Mhm.
We were with you. We stood with you. Please do that with us. We're dying. Whether if it's by violence or capitalism itself,
Mhm.
we're dying off.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely. It's a sad truth, but that's what it is. And when
Mhm.
you brought up mainstream media platforms, I actually read an article. It was it was a few days ago, where they were talking about the coverage of anti-trans conversations in mainstream media. It actually said that they only spend about like 5 minutes
Mhm.
talking
Mhm.
about it. I'm talking about platforms like CNN,
Mhm.
MSNBC, the top networks, even Fox News, which obviously, like, is anybody shocked about Fox News? Like, let's just be real.
Right.
But that is the point. This is the reason why we wanted to start this. Because if you really are for LGBTQIA liberation, you need to be talking about this.
Yep.
The ones that are saying that we need to shut up, obviously, you
Mhm.
all have a special kind of privilege. And I'm assuming that you got health care, you're living well, and there's no complaints with your life overall.
Mhm. Mhm.
There are many trans people that are living on the street or facing homelessness. Some can't get access to food. Hell, it's even hard for trans youth.
Mm-hmm.
even get access to the things that they need. Besides the basic fundamentals, but like getting clothes for them, there's a lack of inclusivity. If you're preaching inclusivity, it needs to be demonstrated in whatever formats. But go ahead, Tsukuru, because I
Yeah.
had a feeling you were going to say something, so I wanted to make sure I gave you time for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I just want to emphasize that, so like earlier, Noah, you were referring or you were kind of hinting at the division, division among the LGBTQIA plus community. And, the division is in a way by design, unfortunately, right? Whether we realize it or not, it happens in or among any marginalized communities, because I mean, as the saying goes, like old saying goes, like divide and conquer. That's easier, for the establishment and for people in power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As long as we are divided, it's easier to keep us down. It's easier to control us and defeat us. So it's by design, and we need to realize that, and unfortunately, like it happens everywhere, not only like LGBTQIA plus, it happens in actually any movement. And I just want to let the audience know, who is tuning in, who will be tuning in to this network. We slash I, probably like talk about sort of like other movements as well, because I personally, am active in a lot of different activist spheres. So anyway, for instance, I was a few days ago I was speaking about this, the anti-nuclear movement, because that's where I kind of live a lot. So even in that section of movement, we are divided, and it's by design, right? So like there are people who advocate for abolishing nuclear weapons, but they may not actually say the same thing about nuclear power plants. For some of them, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly justified to have nuclear power plants and nuclear power generation, and vice versa. Some people may talk about not wanting to have nuclear power plants in their community, but they're perfectly okay about nuclear weapons. So sometimes like I was getting kind of like a hate comments in this. I won't name the names, but in this Facebook group, it's a group of people who have been advocating for this specific geographic community, because they where they live is contaminated by radiation, right? So they've been advocating for themselves, but it was upsetting to them that I post things about nuclear weapons on their Facebook page, right? So yeah, they were like saying things like, "Okay, what has this got to do with us?" Right? I do have a compassion. Okay, actually, I have to say I do have a compassion, because these people are dealing with their own, the health effects in their own community. So it's exhausting to have to advocate for us, for yourself, like day in and day night, day in and day out. So I do have compassion that they're exhausted, and they don't want to, kind of see, they don't want to like extend their conversation to nuclear weapons, right? Anyway, so but I'm just saying this by an analogy, by way of analogy, because um so when, let's see, LGB, people in LGB communities may not want to talk about transgender issues or non-binary issues, because they feel like it has nothing to do with them, or they have their hands full, with their own issues. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I do understand where they're coming from, but it's not okay, because as long as we are divided, we are weak. We have
Right.
to come together, because then we are stronger, right? So anyway, Yeah.
That's exactly like what I'm trying to say. We cannot achieve social justice when we're focusing on the petty bullshit. Like, enough with it. Like, come on. You don't have to agree with what we do with our lives, but I mean, at least you can relate to us that you've experienced the exact same thing that we're dealing with now. I mean, particularly now with Roe v. Wade, now it's going to affect everybody in the community. So now is not the time to sit here and waste all your mental energy on something that could be discussed later. We just need to focus right now, get ourselves together, and fight. I know like some people may be scared, but do know that you're not alone in it. First of all, you're not alone. I know there's many of you that are scared, but know that there's a lot more that are going to be there to support you. Just please remember that. And I kind of relate to compassion too when it comes to my field. So I'm in mental health. Mental health is, I'm working really hard in a sense to try to fight in that system too. Because this field also promotes a lot of inclusivity. Like, they'll sit there and say, hey, we're for trans people. But then, when you go behind closed doors, that's not what happens. Essentially, like, so just to give everybody a reminder of like what really got me to come up with this. I've been thinking about doing this for, it's been about 5 years, but I was one of those people that was really scared to use my voice. I've always been kind of the person that just never took shit from anybody, but I was afraid of how it was going to come out, because how it was coming out before was not the right way in a sense. It was getting me in trouble, and I realized I've had to fix my strategies, learn from my mistakes. But during the times, like when I did come out as trans, I have experienced endless discrimination within my field. Mm-hmm. I've been told that trans people need help. I've been misgendered. I have not been acknowledged by my new legal name, which is Noah. I have had people tell me that your gender identity scares people. And I've been told that by fellow members of the LGBTQIA+. I've been told that trans people don't belong in mental health other than being the client. We're referred to as special issues in our field. And I actually want to go ahead and say this. Please don't do that, because you're going to engage in the stigma and reinforce it. Please don't. Like, please humble yourselves. You know what this society needs? We all need to come together and be culturally humble. Not just with LGBTQIA+, but also with race, ethnicity, religion. We need to have some humility. We don't have to fucking agree with everything. I'm just putting that out there. We can agree to disagree. Like, move on from it. I don't want to live in a society where we're always constantly agreeing. I mean, that's just me. I like diversity even in conversation. So I'm okay, like, if people disagree with me. That's their thing. I want to highlight this comment from JT, that they have had people tell them that I confuse others being non-binary. This is what I'm talking about. This stuff happens in the trans and non-binary communities. Actually, as I said in the last episode of the Trans Files, I had a trans woman tell me that the non-binary community was a fad. And what the thing is of how I've been learning, I tried to get her perspective on it. And I try to, in a sense, relate to her. It's like, but they also say that being trans is a fad. Stuff like that is why I wanted to start the network. Another aspect, I was bullied offline to the point where I actually made an attempt on my own life. I was bullied by fellow members of the LGBTQIA+. One of the ringleaders was a member of the LGBTQIA+. That scared me. Because when people would think of the term LGBTQIA plus, what do they think of? They think of it's a welcoming, warm community that's outside of the norm. Which, by the way, there is nothing wrong with that. By the way, with
Right.
being outside of the norm, I mean, honestly, the norm that's out there, it's not healthy on a whole other levels. But that's a completely different other conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already pissed off that like cis people, like actual cis hetero people, are like they actually scare me just as much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not okay. I have a trans child, and I want a society where she can live in, where she can live herself authentically.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
goes for everyone.
Yeah.
Youth, adults, you all deserve to live authentically. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you're not trans,
Right.
you should be able to live yourselves authentically.
Mm-hmm.
It's a basic fundamental human right.
Yep.
And despite what other people tell you, when you don't live yourself authentically, it is so damaging to your mental health. That's why I said if it's not violence that's killing us, mentally, it's going to kill us. But
Mm-hmm.
go ahead,
Mm-hmm.
Subaru.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Just wanted to say two things, like so JT's comment, yeah, okay. So I did say this in the last transfile episode as well, but okay, so people, when you're confused though, when you're confused, it's on you. You are confused, and it's fine you are confused, but do not take it out on other people that you're confused, okay? When you are scared, it's fine too. You are scared, but let's recognize it's you that that who are scared, right? And nothing, again, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's just not take it out on other people. So if
Right.
you're confused about people, other people being trans or other people being non-binary, okay, you are confused about that, but it's not on us. It's not our fault. I mean, okay, so yeah, let's just acknowledge that, right? And
Right.
yeah, but okay, what was the other thing I was thinking about? Now I forgot.
See,
But
now
anyway,
it's gotten to you now. It's gotten to you now. See,
I
it
know
affected
what was
me
I
first.
what were you saying like right before I started this thing? God, it'll come to me though, I think. But yeah, no,
See, it did for me too. It did for me too. So it'll come
yeah,
back for you.
yeah,
It's just insanity. I was talking about trans youth, if you need a kind of reminder. I was basically saying that living ourselves authentically is a basic fundamental human right.
yes. Okay, now it came
There
to
you
me.
go.
Right, right. So I mean, another message as Tran, uh, another message that's very important to us is that so liberation for some does not exist, right? If you advocate for liberation for some, it automatically is for liberation for all, and that's what I want like everyone to get, because this conversation actually happens a lot in Japan, my home country, because in Japan we are still debating that things like gay marriage is a special right for gay people. Remember that argument was here in this country as well.
Mhm.
Some people saying like, "Oh, we can't give you special treatment." But I mean, it wasn't a special treatment. We were just saying that we want to be treated like any other human beings. We wanted to be treated as equally, right?
Mhm.
So, but this conversation like really happens a lot. It's like when the marginalized population advocate for their rights, it's seen as like we are asking for something special, but it's not true. You know, um, so when we support, like, cis and straight people out there, when we support trans rights, non-binary rights, or gay rights, whatnot, actually it's liberation for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because liberation for some is for liberation for all. And as the famous saying goes, until we achieve liberation for all, there's liberation for no one really, because it's
Mm-hmm.
always threatened. If one group is threatened, we are all threatened. So that's what I wanted to say.
And I'm glad you brought up cis people, because you know what? There is starting to be a lot of mistrust between trans and cis people, and that is not okay. I mean, I'm guilty of being mistrustful with cis people, but that's only because I've experienced nothing but trauma from cis people. However, I am not giving up, because I also do know I have plenty of cis people who are my friends and who are authentic allies. And I want to say too, to my trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming siblings, please be patient with cis people. You got to remind yourselves they're not getting all the accurate information about our community.
Yeah.
If they misgender you one time, don't block them. It's a mistake. I'm going to tell you right now, when I actually came out, my mom misgendered me and she did dead name me. However, I was tolerant and patient of that because she had known me under a different name for a long time. My situation happened to be a little bit unique. My brother passed away in 2018. And so that's why, in a sense, I kind of allowed her to dead name me. She doesn't dead name me anymore.
Mm.
She actually corrects herself. That approach worked with my mother. I'm not saying that approach is going to work for everyone. Find your own unique way to approach it, but don't cancel somebody out. And I use that term cancel loosely, very, very loosely.
Mm. Mm.
So
Yep.
just please humble yourselves. The ones that do engage in what I like to call Karen entitlement syndrome, they are not going to be taken seriously. However, please plant the seed. Before they block you out of their lives, at least plant the seed.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, let's face it. So, okay, turfs.
My God. I heard
I
the term.
think they're very effective. Actually, that's what the scary thing right now. They are being very effective about spreading fear and misinformation about trans agenda. I guess I mean, it's like
I didn't
that
realize they
actually
had an
that
agenda.
actually term really makes me laugh, because like we don't have agenda other than the fact that we want to live, right? Okay, we don't want to be killed. We want to be living our own, like, healthy and prosperous life. That's our agenda. We have no hidden agenda, but they are very, very good at spreading fear, um, by saying something like, "Oh, we are trying to erase women," for instance, right? Um, Not true, not true. So I think you are right, Noah. I firmly believe that yes, there are malicious people out there who are, preaching turf, ideologies, but there are also people out there who may not be malicious, who are just afraid because of what they heard, and nobody had, you know, uh, corrected them, or nobody tried to inform them, you know.
Mhm.
So you want to be patient, I think. Not everyone is malicious. They may be our allies, if we talk to them
Mhm.
patiently, right? So yeah, that's why though I think, as difficult as it may be on this network, we want to invite conversations, right? We want to invite people who may have different opinions. Given that, as long as they are not hostile, right? I mean, it's like
Right,
I
right.
can't deal with hostile people, but as long as they want to talk, you know,
Mhm.
I think we should welcome them.
Yep. All members of the LGBTQIA plus are welcome on this network. And I do want to apologize. My internet is acting wacky. So if I'm missing step, that's why. Gotta love Comcast.
Right.
But yes, all members of the LGBTQIA plus are welcome on this network, whether if you want to just be a guest or even if you want to be a part of the movement. Please join us.
Mm.
We definitely want to promote your voice. Don't, and again, do not be afraid to use it. We want to demonstrate that we are a community that cares for one another. But to your point with the turf movement, I promise to God, I mean, being on Twitter was annoying, at least for I think it was like 2 weeks they were fucking trending.
Mm.
And I'm like, the fuck is going on? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, the reason why they were trending is because I'm starting to follow more with LGBTQ Twitter as opposed to like my political Twitter. Like, I still kind of keep it kind of equal. But like, what I've noticed, there's stuff going down in the UK.
Mm.
And from what I hear about the UK, there's a shitload of turfs in the UK. So
Yeah.
you got to think of one thing. The reason why turfs have so much power is because they have powerful influencers like J.K. Rowling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even influenced people like Caitlyn Jenner, Blair White. So you got to remember that. And we need to put a stop to it. Because essentially, if we keep on focusing on this bullshit, honestly, the turf movement is essentially going to be the LGBT, at least the trans community's demise, in my opinion. That's just a theory. Because you're giving all this information to right wingers.
Mm-hmm.
We actually covered a video where there was a right winger that was encouraging bullying and
Mm-hmm.
trying to like say that, oh, you should be bullied for being trans, basically shaming people. He was saying if you're fat, then you should be bullied so you can lose weight. Or if you lack of an education, then you should be bullied for that. And by the way, I'm just going to say he's lacking education, so maybe he should be bullied by his logic. But still, that type of rhetoric, that's what's encouraging all these bigots that are out here. Whether if it's online or if it's like one-on-one violence.
Mm-hmm.
Women's rights are getting taken away and they're getting replaced with, oh, I think everybody needs to be carrying a gun. I'm not going to talk about like my position on gun rights. I'm going to save that for another show. But regardless, it's sad. And I want to bring up a point though with the different cultures. With women, they are all unique too.
Mm-hmm.
There is no standard of being a woman. It is not about anatomy. Please drop that bullshit. Like, seriously, drop it.
Yep.
If you're going to constantly talk about that shit, I'm sorry. I'm going to call you the notorious G word. Like, seriously, I will. It is not about how we are on the outside. We are not doing that stuff to you. I mean, I remember when there was I think this is when TERFs were trending, but the women's rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
They posted their new logo. TERFs freaked out about that shit over one little silhouette because the person's nose was big. They were being anti-Semitic too. They're like, "Oh, this can't be a woman because that person looks like a man." Like the fuck ever. Why are we so focused on this shit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, what we're experiencing as a whole is real. Can't we all just agree to disagree?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we can't. because this performative conversation has been basically reinforced by mainstream media. It's been a distraction. And to be honest, that's why I do not watch networks like MSNBC and CNN, is because of that. I mean, I'm sorry. We are right now, for me as an American, like, I'm ashamed. Why are we in a society where we're all behaving like children? Seriously. We also live in a very contradictory society too, as well. You know, I actually got into it with the transphobe. This is the real reason why I will never, ever, ever comment on libs of TikTok ever again. Because I was responding to a mutual's post. And basically, libs of TikTok basically took a TikTok of this lady who was basically trying to be mindful, trying to be inclusive, trying to, in a sense, what she should go by. And basically, they said, well, this teacher, this is what is getting taught to children or something like that, when it had nothing to do with that. I commented back and I said, you know, well, I don't really see nothing wrong with it. In fact, I would rather have the opportunity to live myself independently without somebody dictating to me what I should be living as in the norm. The contradiction with transphobes that I see a lot, honestly, they'll sit there and say, oh, well, we need to let kids be themselves. We need to stop teaching this stuff. That is not authoritative as a PSA. That is authoritarian. Authoritative, and this comment basically got me in trouble a little bit. Because I called that out. I said authoritarian and authoritative are not the same thing. It's a parenting style. You can definitely share your perspectives and your point of view. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But when you are trying to impose your own values onto your own children and not allowing them to be themselves, that's abuse to me. You are robbing their autonomy. Age does not have a number when it comes to autonomy for me. We all should be independent. Like, I'm sorry, and just as a PSA too, like, I'm sorry that you were taught this way to parent, but it is not the right way. And I'm going to say this too very loosely. Like, there is no manual to being a perfect parent. We're all going to make mistakes.
Yep.
It's a learning process. I mean, when I had my kid, it was new for me. I had no idea how the fuck I was supposed to do this, but the one thing I knew was that I loved my child, and I would do anything to protect my child. Her rights are getting threatened right now, and I'm doing what I feel like I should do as a parent.
Right.
To advocate for her. I'm scared for her. I mean, it's pretty sad. Like, she's going to be starting high school next week. And the whole concept of the locker rooms is scaring her.
Right, right.
I mean, buying trans girl shorts, I saw some online. They want like $50-$60 for them. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Why?
Wow. You know.
Just why? It shouldn't even be that way. Like, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then it even as a parent, like, I feel like trans youth need to have voices heard. Allow them to speak. These people that are out there saying, well, children don't know best, well, why don't you actually try listening to your fucking children?
Yep.
Let them speak. You can feel free to disagree with them, and you can have an opportunity to educate, but don't impose values onto them. If you, all these people that are saying that the LGBTQIA plus is sitting there and trying to indoctrinate, even though as a Christian, and I'm saying this as a Christian, then stop trying to indoctrinate prayer into school
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and telling people that they need to live their life this way. That and just for you evangelical Christians, that's not what the Bible teaches. It does not teach authoritarianism. I just had to say that because it's a little special to
Right.
me.
Right. Mm. Yeah. I mean, this whole idea of, and again, it's not really exclusive to like gay and trans youth either, but it's like, children are only to be seen but not heard. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that happens like all the time, and it's just not right. I think we probably like I would assert like all of us are oppressed that way, have been oppressed that way in at some point of our lives. It's just that some people may not remember, or they just suppressed it so much that they don't remember. But yeah, I mean, it's as a child, it's very very damaging when it's done to you. When you are silenced, and when grown-ups treat you like you don't know anything. It's like it's just really kind of fucked up if you think about it. Like, why would you assert that, regardless of like what age, regardless of how old they are. I mean, everyone should know, like, should have understanding about like what they experience. But then, grown-ups, some grown-ups act like children do not own their experience, and that's fucked up if you
Mm-hmm.
think about it. you know
It is very fucked up.
you know
I mean, trans youth, in a sense, like if you took the hate away, they got it good right now. Like they have access to blockers, they have access to hormones.
Mhm.
Hell, I mean, if that shit was around when I was growing up, I'd have been a happy camper, and I think my mental health would have been a hell of a lot better.
Mhm.
But we got to remember there is a generational divide that's going on in this country.
Yeah.
It's a war, in my opinion. I
Mhm.
think that I personally kind of, so my personal views on division is not just turfs and right wingers. It's that generational difference, and it kind of intertwines with the cultural element because of the fact is there are a lot of, okay, so I am not going to really totally hate on the boomer generation. I'm not, because my mom is a boomer and I love her and she accepts me, and I know that there's a lot of other people that do, but
Mhm.
there are a lot of them who are pushing that authoritarian talking point and saying that we know what's best, you don't know anything. It's a mental illness. That's all you need to know. Then you also got people, we're in a more inclusive, in a sense, society. Gen
Mhm.
Z, millennials, even Gen Xers too. We've actually come to a point like we're humbled, like we're all just human. Things were different in each generation. My generation growing up in the 90s, being trans was not being heard of. I
Mhm.
barely heard anything about being trans. I didn't even know that there was such a concept. And when somebody tried to educate me what transsexuality was, it's like, it wasn't the right information,
Mhm.
let's just
Mhm.
say. What was talked about in my time was orientation.
Mhm. Right. Right.
And even like, so I did not come out as a lesbian, but I came out as a bisexual. Even that was rough. I had friends of mine that were openly out and they got bullied like to an extreme.
Mhm.
That's how it is now for trans people. I challenge people to kind of like read up on their history. And that's something that we want to try to provide on this network too. The psychoeducation. I know people hear the term psychoeducation and it's like, okay, what the fuck? But I trust you, trust me, it's not what it sounds like. It's just simply just educating. That's all it is. I'm used to that terminology because again, I'm in healthcare. That it's something that we use often. So it's kind of like a natural language for me.
Right, right.
And just to add, I call myself a stigma fighter for a reason. I recognize I am not going to totally like defeat a stigma. I can't do that. I know as a whole, we probably could. But
Mm,
for me, at least while I'm living on this planet, I want to try to make a dent in it. Not just with like mental health, LGBTQIA plus,
mm,
other cultural issues. We need to make a dent in it because there's two elements that take place when its stigma is in place. There is one little flaw. So basically, in other words, a fuck up. And then another one is not being properly educated. Because when you have those two elements in place, you know what happens? Violence, discrimination, overall oppression. And I want to add one note though, because I know we're going to be coming to a close here soon.
mm,
This is not a competition, just for the record. I'm sorry. This isn't about like whose community is more important. And I'm referring to basically like, especially during Pride Month, I heard this.
mm,
Oh, you trans people need to kind of shut up. You need to focus more on the gays. No, this isn't what it's about. We all need to talk about each other equally. It doesn't matter whose community is more important. All we're acknowledging as the trans community is like you need to listen to us because it's getting fucking serious.
mm.
More of us are dying because, like I said earlier, 24 trans lives, and there are probably more.
Yeah.
There are probably more, and they are not getting reported. They are not. So this is not a competition game. To the transphobes who also and the homophobes that believe that we need to have a straight pride. I'm sorry. Again, this is not a competition. You do not want to experience oppression. I'm sorry. Get over yourselves. If you seriously want to be oppressed, fine. But I'm going to say, I just seek help for that. Seek help for it. Seek help for any projection issues. Because
Right.
that's essentially what they all deal with anyway. They have projection issues. But I wanted to just give you the floor, Tsukuru, if you had any closing thoughts before we closed and get ready for Misha for Up Close and Personal. Don't cross the
Yes,
line.
that's very exciting.
I loved Misha. Misha was amazing. So I cannot wait for you all to see it. But I wanted to go ahead and just ask you if you had any closing thoughts before we ended.
Huh. Okay. Do I have any closing thoughts? Yeah, I think I've actually kind of said it all. But no, really, I think, um, yeah, I mean, as I said, I guess, yeah, I just want to say that. So, I mean, we have big plans, big visions, for this network slash organization, movement, whatever you call it. But I think ultimately, I'm just gonna repeat myself, but ultimately, um, what we want to do is to create a safe space for all of us to have conversations, um, so that we can achieve liberation for all. That's all we are going for. There's nothing complicated. At the end of the day, I mean, my worldview is very simple. And oh yeah, okay. So I do want to say one thing. So earlier, Noah, you were talking about like older generation, right? So I'm 51. So I'm kind of like oldish, in the kind of like oldish bracket of generation. And I do feel that, again, like why people are so resistant to, people like us, trans people, non-binary people, is because they are afraid. They are scared that their worldview is being challenged. And I just want to assure, everyone, in my generation, that there's nothing to be scared about. There's nothing to be scared about. Yeah, yes, your worldview is being challenged, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It keeps you young, like,
Yeah.
because you don't wanna know everything about this world, and it's boring and it's old, right? But as long as like you are finding out new things, and you are finding out about mysteries of this world, it keeps you young. It keeps the life interesting. Okay, so let's just be adventurous together, and so if you have any questions, you can come to our network and ask questions, and we will talk about it.
Speaking of which, before I actually show this, this is also not a red or blue issue. I want to make that clear. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, yes, I know like our issues are talked about in politics, but honestly, when it comes to trans rights, it's not a red or blue issue. We're all human. Let's just agree on that. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. But if anybody is interested, I'm going to see if I can get it posted up here. It went away. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it up here. This is our website. Please feel free to check it out. This is a way you can contact us if you want to be a part of the network, or if you want to give us some feedback. You'll see some blog posts up there. We'll be posting weekly on there. But I just want to thank everybody that did tune in tonight. Please continue to use your voice. Do not be afraid to engage in uncomfortable conversations. Please continue to call out transphobia. Please continue to hold people to account. And I look forward to doing more of this with you, Tsukuru. You are definitely my super buddy on this one.
Yes, I can say exactly the same, Noah. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this adventure.
And by the way, if you are interested in getting a beret, Tsukuru,
Yes.
you gotta hit Tsukuru up.
Yeah, I can make it in any flag colors, or whatever. So hit me up.
Yay!
Yeah. Oh, and all proceeds will go to this network.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because essentially we are trying to get on the ground. So like that's the end goal here. So anything helps. We will also be debuting on Anchor. So keep a lookout for that. Well, I want to just say that it was great doing this episode with you, Tsukuru. And, I hope everybody is staying safe, taking care of yourselves. Please have a safe weekend.
Yep.
Do whatever you need to protect yourself.
Yes. And enjoy life. Everyone. Life is beautiful despite all challenges.
Yes. Well, let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and end, and we will see you next week on the Trans Files.
All right.
All righty. Got that, Tsukuru?
What are we using?
You know what? I got this. We'll just
Okay.
Trans Files again.
Right. Thank you.
Let's do this.